What's up, house groups? I just have a real short thought for you tonight about pride and power. And it comes from the book of Daniel, chapter 4. If you remember from Sunday, it's the story of Nebuchadnezzar being humbled in his pride. He looked out at this vast kingdom that he was ruling over and said, I built this. By my own hard work, by my own brilliance, I did all of this, and I'm prospering, so it must be for me and about me. And I think that is super frustratingly relatable for those of us living in 21st century America. We're not emperors and empresses ruling over giant kingdoms who have so much wealth we don't even know what to do with it. But we do live in the middle of a culture that says if you work hard enough, if you work smart enough, if you just put in the effort, then you can build a life for yourself. And whatever you have, whatever's come to you, it's for you. But what God taught Nebuchadnezzar in this process was that that's really not how it works in his economy. He actually drove Nebuchadnezzar away from the throne, sent him out into the wilderness to live like a wild beast until he was able to look up, turn his eyes towards heaven, and humble himself and realize that his pride was plagiarism. He was taking credit for a story God was writing, and his pride had hijacked his humanity. It made him unable to see the people around him and to see the blessings he'd received as an opportunity to lift them up. It's interesting, right at the beginning, he said, I, Nebuchadnezzar, was at home in my palace, contented and prosperous. And this word he used for prosperous there, I talked about this on Sunday, is this Hebrew word ra'anan. And ra'anan means prosperous, but most of the time it shows up in the Bible, it's talking about a tree flourishing. Like a tree that's green, that's spreading its branches wide, providing food and shade and shelter for all the animals in its orbit. A tree that's flourishing in a way that benefits the entire ecosystem. And you guys, that is the biblical definition of prosperity. Our cultural definition that even shows up in some churches of prosperity is getting a whole bunch of stuff for yourself. It's God blessing you with whatever your little heart desires so that you can use it for you. But that's just not the picture God paints. And the problem isn't prosperity. The problem is the direction in which we aim our prosperity. Jesus talked about that with his disciples in Matthew chapter 20, Mark chapter 10. He looked at them, he said, you know how people with authority in the world, they tend to use it for their own benefit. They lord it over the people underneath them. They use people to prop themselves up and get more for themselves. And all of his disciples were like, yeah, we get that. That's why we want more authority. That's why when you build your kingdom, we want to be right there with you so we can use people to get more for ourselves. And Jesus looked at them and said, not so with you. Like in my kingdom, we're going to do something different. And God taught the same thing to Nebuchadnezzar. He said, no, man, you're not in charge because you're the greatest. You're in charge because I put you in charge, and I put you in charge. I gave you prosperity for a reason, so that you could use it to bless the people around you. You're flourishing so that your world can flourish. And he said, I give kingdoms to whomever I want, even the lowliest of people. Which doesn't make sense to us. We think, no. The lowliest of people can't be emperors. They can't be kings and queens. They can't have authority. Like those are the powerful people that have that. But God says, no, it's actually the complete reverse. If you want to be the greatest, you got to be the servant of all. And so the people who are ruling over everything, like in my economy, are the people who can serve everybody. And so the more you have, the more you can serve. The more you've been given, the more you can give. See, authority is actually the ability to serve. And it's true for us, every single one of us, no matter who you are or where you're at in life, you have authority somewhere over something. And that authority means that you have the ability to change the way things are. And God's design for the way that you'd use that authority. God's design for the way they would use, or that you would use the prosperity you've been given, is that you would leverage it for the sake of the people around you, to build them up and to meet them, or to meet their needs, and to show them his love in a way that draws them to him. And it's a countercultural thing to do, like wildly. It's just realizing I'm wearing my Drake basketball shirt today because Drake is awesome at basketball. 20-2, they're going to the tournament. They have been terrible for most of my life, and I'm proud. But was just thinking back to my days in college. We had this motto in my fraternity that was work hard, play hard. And the big idea was like, we're going to work harder than everybody else. We're smarter and better than everybody else. And because of that, we're going to prosper because we're brilliant and we're great and we're good. And we're going to use our prosperity for ourselves, for our own enjoyment. And we're going to think everything that came our way is because of our own brilliance and our own hard work and our own ingenuity. And we're going to use it for our own good. And God scoffs at that. It's plagiarism. He says, no, I'm writing the story. And what I want you to do with the influence you have, what I want you to do with the prosperity you have, what I want you to do with the things I've placed in your hands is leverage them like that tree, Ra'anan. I want you to flourish so that everything in your orbit can flourish. So that you can be a part of what I'm doing to set all things right and make all things new, and so that you can point people toward my love. And that is a way bigger, better vision of what to do with the power and the authority and the flourishing we have than just puffing up our own pride and using it selfishly. And so I want to challenge you this week to think about what you can do. Think about one step you can take toward leveraging yourself for the sake of the people around you. Because that's what it looks like to flourish in God's economy.